Hello, and welcome to another Coach Talk by Jeff Melcher, owner and lead coach of Cycling Form and Fitness. What I have for you today is a review of Aerotune and specifically the bike power test. They do offer run power testing that I utilize, but to a lesser degree because it has to be on a track and it has to be done a little bit more specifically. I think it's great if you're running as your main objective, but if you're doing triathlon or you're more of a cyclist, of course, the bike test might be your preference. But again, there is a run test. I've done it once. My challenge has been personally getting to a track that's open for the public and doing a run test. But I plan on doing that this spring. So let's focus back on the bike testing. So what I have for you today to start with is the 5 different tests I've done personally. And I do have a lot of clients that have done Aerotune power tests on the bike. This is my personal data because I can share that. So it does tell a story, I think, that's interesting and brings to the point of how this data is useful. So in 2021, I was more of a cyclist, less of a runner, more of a short course triathlete. Came off of mountain biking, Xterra, various things, and I was still doing Xterra. So I had to be good for climbing mountains and hills, and you have it. I pretty much did it in between the national championship and local races. So anyways, VO2 max was high at 58.7. My VLA max was high at 0.72, and my critical power was 274. So that was great for what I was doing for races and training back then. A lot of hard efforts and some steady long efforts. But I knew as an athlete that wasn't going to work for long course triathlon. I had started to dabble into long course, 70.3, and I wasn't getting the results I wanted. February, I realized that, I had to train differently. So this is February 2023. So up to that test, I had done some work to lower my VLA max and not a lot of work on critical power because, again, this is February 27th of 2023. I didn't want to lose my VO2 max, the size of my aerobic engine. I did want to change my VLA max to be a lower number to be better suited for long, steady efforts. And I achieved that. I went from 0.72 to 0.43. I was a better long course triathlete, but I was incomplete. My critical power was 268. Advanced that a couple months, and April 4th, I was at 277 for my critical power. VLA max was about the same, and VO2 max had went up. So great. I'm still not as efficient as I would need to be. When a VLA max is lower, you are more efficient at burning fats and carbs. You don't rely on carbohydrates as exclusively. You have more of this diesel engine. So didn't really test much that summer. Had a lot of hard training events. So I knew it was going well. I was racing really well at 70.3. Had a couple of races that went under 5 hours, and I achieved my all-time goal of going under 5 hours in the 70.3 triathlon. So a great season, tested at the end, critical power of 282. VLA max now at 0.28, right about where I wanted it at 0.3. And the VO2 max seems to have slipped a bit at 52, but that's not a problem because I'm doing these long, steady state races and efforts. And then, over this past winter, I had a minor knee surgery. It kind of took me out of training for probably 4 weeks from a functional standpoint. I had to just get back to moving the knee. So 1 month into the training, my critical power now is down to 258. My VLA max is up to 0.44, and the VO2 max is down to 50.4. So all those numbers are negative relative to the past, but I know I can move forward and get back where I was. And now the question gets to be, what's the best way of doing that? Well, that's not so hard to understand when you do the metabolic testing by Aerotune, it helps inform training. So I'm going to just scan through this. My numbers are here. Already went through that. Don't want to bore you with my data. Gives you a power and heart rate at fat max, which is upper zone 2. Very good to know. Your threshold, your lactic steady state, your VO2 max at 90%, and VO2 max at 100%. So these are all great numbers to know depending on what your training suggestion is. Maximum training per week. We'll dive into that right now. Race forecast. So if I raise my VO2 max, I could take my best 56-mile effort on the Chattanooga course, and I could take that from 224 all the way to, say, 218 if I was to change my VO2 max from 50 to 55. It's probably possible with the right amount of work over time. Interesting. I can also lower my VLA max, so 224 to 218, by going from a 0.44 to a 0.2. So it's interesting. There's two ways of getting this work done, and you probably want to cycle through both at the right time, but you have to have a goal in mind. What VLA max am I trying to achieve? What VO2 max am I trying to achieve? And what critical power? The lower VLA max will equate to a higher critical power, but you have to keep your VO2 max good enough. So it's a balancing act. Based on my results, I decided that it was best to lower my VLA max first, but I don't want to do that quite yet. What I thought I should do, at least for a couple of weeks right now, is work on VO2 max. So the VO2 max at 90% is ideal for a triathlete without a huge anaerobic engine. And Aerotune, when you get the report, will give you some ideas about how to do that training. And of course, as a coach, I'll plan my athletes based on if we're doing VO2 max at 90%, or if we're doing it at 100%, or if we're going to work on sweet spot, we're going to lower that VLA max by doing sweet spot with low cadence, or we're going to work on fat max and do lung zone 2 training. Usually there's a combination, but I think you get my drift. This report really helps me as coach fine-tune your training. And with enough education, if you're doing this solo, you could figure out a better training path for yourself as well. But without this data, we don't really know which lever to pull. We don't know which number is at what level. So we're kind of shooting in the dark. We're just training without a compass. It's like being lost in the woods and not having a compass, right? You just need to have some sort of gauge of where you want to go. Say it's true north, and a compass is a valuable tool for getting us there if we're lost in the woods. And of course, this is our true north. It's like, which number do we want to improve and why? So hopefully that makes good sense. So what people do is they'll do the workout in Training Peaks. It's an Aerotune test. I have it programmed in Ruby. Aerotune also has it available in Swift. It includes a sprint and a ramp test. So again, you can do this with my guidance at CFF. I can coach you through this for a charge. But basically what you're seeing here is a sprint that was done, maximum seated sprint, a long warm up before that, a good recovery, and then we start our ramp test, and then another long recovery. So I called that workout number 1, but I do both in the same day. Get off the bike, take a bathroom break, reset, and then start the second work phase of testing. And that for the Aerotune test is a good warm up, and then a 12-minute time trial minimum. And if you still have energy to burn, you keep going until your power is starting to drop off. So I think I made it 12.5 minutes. If you're doing this with me, we fine tune your effort by doing kind of the plus or minus in Ruby. So raising the resistance or lowering it to kind of pinpoint that power that's best for you throughout the test. So it's nice to have someone else there to do the plus and minus because you're sitting there on the bike with your full intensity. And it's very hard to reach out for a mouse or for a phone or something to adjust the resistance. And for me, programming a workout, I don't know perfectly. So you do have to be able to go plus minus as needed. So you get your best effort. You got to go at least 12 minutes before the power starts to fade off. And then, yeah, if you got more power to burn, you can go 13, 14. You can actually go up to 40 minutes, and Aerotune will still take that test. The big thing is that it's the highest power you can do consistently. So no big ramp at the beginning, no big jump at the end. Consistent power until it starts to fade off, until you are done. For me, that was a heart rate at about 172, and I decided to pull the plug because my legs were starting to give out, and I just knew I was done. So you stop pedaling, you advance the blocks in Ruby, and then you just do your recovery. So simple enough. So that's what it looks like as a workout. I think I went through the report well enough. As a consequence of doing that, I need to work on my VO2 max. So I'm doing the VO2 max at 90% for the Aerotune description that came on my report. You get a report that's similar. I program these in Ruby. I program these in Training Peaks for people to use in Zwift. For me, and what I need is 3 sets of 22 minutes each at VO2 max. So about 112% of my FTP. 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, back and forth for 8-minute sets, and we're doing 3 of those. The goal is to get within, say, 90% of your max heart rate, about 90% of your VO2 max for 15 to 25 minutes. So that's the total time when we look at the data after this session that I should have squarely in zone 5. So I hope that makes sense. I went through a lot of information there. This test for my coached athletes is $40 if they do it on their own. If they want to come in and do it at Cycling Form and Fitness on one of my trainers and with me there for the plus minus and kind of helping them through to make sure they get a great result, that is going to be 96. And if you're not a coached athlete, I need to get 120. The reason being is $30 goes to Aerotune for the test. And then I have that leftover money for call it profit, if you will. But it's about a 2-hour visit if you do it at my facility. And I'm just trying to get like that $10, $20 if you're going to do it on your own and you want me to enter the data into Aerotune, get your report, and also explain the report to you. So again, there's different fees for different levels. We can go through that if you get more interested. I'm trying to do this fairly because I think this data can drive improvement. It's a great workout on its own, but it has to be done really well or you don't get a good report. Kind of like the garbage in, garbage out. So you need to have max efforts, but you don't want to crack too early. And yeah, if you're facilitated by me, that helps. The other good thing about Aerotune is you are purchasing a month. So when you buy this $30 test, whether it's from me or it's straight from Aerotune, you actually get a full month to do testing. So say that your test didn't go well, you can recover for a few days and do it again. You can train for a few weeks and do it again. So there's different ways of getting to the result, but I like the idea that you can test early in the month and then you can literally train for 3 weeks and you can do another test, all for the price of $30 for Aerotune, about 10 to 20, depending if you're a coached athlete or not. If you want to have my assistance, if you want to do it at Cycling Form and Fitness, it's 96 for coach athletes, 120 for the general public. You get the idea. So thanks. I really appreciate you listening to this overall review. I know there could be some questions, so feel free to ask as needed. And if you want to book a test with me, I look forward to working with you. So you can message me, cyclingformandfitness.com, or on Facebook as Cycling Form and Fitness. And I would be glad to work with you. Thanks. Have a great day.